everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be part 2 of understanding colour, and if you've not already seen part 1, I'll pop the link up here so you can go and watch that now. And we're going to be using this colour wheel that we made in the first video. If you have seen it, then let's crack on with the tutorial. So we're just going to mix our colours together to make the colour wheel. So I'm going to pop a little bit of red and yellow there. I'm just going to mix those together till we get a nice mid-orange. I'm going to take a little bit of that and a bit more red. And then I'm going to take a bit of the orange and add a bit more yellow. Make sure you wipe your palette knife after this as well. That's great. So once we've got all our colours, and I've popped some white in the middle so that we can make our colours lighter. So now we're going to go ahead and put on a first layer onto our painting. So I've actually painted over a previous painting that I didn't like, so that is why it's strange texture and colour. So today I'm planning on using these 3 brushes. So this is a Winton size 10 filbert brush. This is a Winton, again a size 10, and this is a round brush. And then for detail at the end, I'm planning on using this ProArt Proline Plus Series 009 in a size 2. First of all, I'm just going to sketch out the forest and pop things in where they need to be. And taking some of this green mixture, the more bluey green, that's a darker mixture, I'm going to add a bit of white to that. And I'm also going to add a little bit of this red here. Till I get this very muted greyish green colour. And I'm just going to start popping that into the background. And taking a bit of white, I'm just going to blend that up into the distance. Because it's sort of foggy in the background from the looks of it, so I'm trying to create this illusion of the fog. I'm also going to pop that in the background here a little. And a little bit in between these trees. So now taking the green mixture, without adding any white or red, I'm just going to lightly use my brush, very, very lightly, to take up the texture of the canvas underneath. And try and use my brush to create some shapes. Okay, and rinse your brush out. So while it's drying, it's a good time to top up any paint that you may have used up. So I've used up quite a lot of this green, so I'm going to go ahead and make some more now. So next I'm going to take my little brush and we're going to pop in some of the trees in the background. So I'm going to take this bluey green again. And this time I'm going to add a little bit of the purple. To make it quite dark, I'm just going to add a tiny bit of white. We want this mixture to be quite dark. I'm just going to add a little bit of water just to make that easier to paint with. And now I'm just going to pop in a few of these trees. Just keep making more mixture when you need it. And of course, if it's drying out a little bit, you can add just a little bit of water just to loosen up that paint again. See, sometimes the way you approach a painting will change the end result. So a lot of people may start with the trees in the foreground, for example, whereas I like to start with the background, and then it nicely comes together when you add the top layer. So now I've put the trees in, I want to start adding the green leaves that you can see in the background. So again, using that bluey green, I'm going to add a tiny little bit of red and a bit of white. Again, you can add a little bit of water just to make the mixture easier to paint with. Okay, so you can see very lightly in the background a shadow of a tree. So I'm just going to pop that in. And you can use a bit of white with it to blend it in again, because obviously it's quite foggy up at the top, so you can use white to blend that in and create this mottled look. So there's areas of lighter leaves and also darker areas. So it's just a case of checking back at your reference photo and seeing where these go. I'm going to add in a little bit of darker green now, so I'm going to take this mixture again and add a little bit of red, but I'm not going to add any white this time. And I'm going to start to add in these shadows and the darker greens that you can see. And you can really spend as long as you want on this part. You can go very, very detailed and spend a lot of time putting these in if that's the look that you prefer, or you can very haphazardly do it and create more of an abstract look. It's completely up to you. You don't have to copy exactly what I'm doing. You can do it in your own way. So I feel like the background at the top is very white, so I'm going to pop some more white in there. And then it goes into this muted grey-green colour. So we have already popped a bit of this in, but we can just add some more details and interest. And I'm just going to add some abstract looking little leaves in places. And then using the green just with the purple colour again to get quite a dark colour, I'm going to start to add in some of the darker areas of leaves. And this is why I use a fairly big brush for detail, is because I find if I use a very small brush, I will literally be there hours. Whereas I feel like with a bigger brush, you can sort of give the suggestion of detail rather than actually having to go in and do every little bit of detail. See, that's very dark down this side. So I'm just going to use haphazardly brush strokes to again give the illusion of trees and leaves just all in the background. So I'm going to grab my medium brush now and I'm going to pop in the two large sides of trees. So using that same mixture of the bluey green and the purple, I'm just going to pop in the first layer of these bushes. As usual, we will be adding more layers to this. So this is more just the first layer. Okay, so now using my little brush again, we're going to go into the background again and we're going to take white, straight from the tube, straight white. We're just going to bring some more detail back into the background again. I'm going to go down each section that we've just completed and really just use the white to add in some more detail. It's almost like taking away what we've just put in, but only in certain areas. Personally, I think this is quite an advanced painting technique. So the more that you can get into the habit of learning to take things away, instead of just adding all the time, adding colours and adding shapes, you can take it away by using whatever the background colour is, and you can add in these little areas. And again, it's a great way of adding detail when you want to paint in an impressionistic way. And we're going to try and make that browny colour for the trees. So I'm going to take some blue and a bit of orange. So you get that really nice deep brown. I'm going to add a little bit of water to that. And I'm going to put down the first layers on each of the foreground trees. It's up to you what brush you want to use for this. I think I might actually move to a bigger brush because that's going to take a long time. So yeah, it's blue and orange, which because they're opposite colours, they cancel each other out, and that's why they make like a very dull colour. And what I quite like about it as well is when you're working with just primers, you can actually make sure that you don't completely mix the colours. So then you get these lovely areas of the tones that are in the colour. So you've got like your blue and your orange both showing through, and I think it just gives it a really nice feel. And again, I love like abstract art and impressionistic art, so that's probably why I like it, because it pops those colours in there that you think you shouldn't see necessarily. And if you run out of certain colours, so I've just run out of blue, so I've topped that up, and I've run out of orange, so I'm going to make some more orange. So that is red and yellow. And I'm going to pop this one in because you can sort of see it coming through the bushes, which is why we've only done the first layer on these bushes. So I'm going to pop that I'm going to pop that in underneath so that we can do the bushes on top. So I'm also just going to add in these few in the front. Okay, so now we're going to wait for that to dry. Okay, so when that's pretty much dry, we're going to go over the top and add more. We're going to go over and add more layers to the trees. So obviously we've got the base layer in, but you can see there's so many different textures and colours. I'm going to start adding this really light highlight. So I'm going to add some white to the mixture that we've just made. And I'm going to add a little bit of orange into that until I can see that it's a similar colour to what we've got in the photograph. And I'm just going to use my smaller brush to just start adding little areas of this colour. Obviously on this tree that we're working on now, like I said before, we will be putting parts of the bush over this, so don't worry too much about this tree on the right. So now I'm just going to keep adding bits of orange and tiny bits of blue. And keep doing similar movement now, so we're just adding lots of different tones into those trees. And then lastly for now, I'm going to make the really dark colour again. So we've got blue and orange. I'm just going to make a really dark brown. And then especially at the base of the trees. Just going to pop that in. It's still not dark enough, so I'm going to add a bit more blue. It doesn't matter too much if it's actually more blue than it is orange at this point, because it will just add a really nice shadow. Okay, I think that'll do for now. So I'm going to wash my brush out. And I'm going to start adding this base of the tree here. So taking that similar mixture, I'm just going to add a little bit of white to that. So we've still got a bluey, orange, dully, grey colour. And I'm just going to start to add in some interest into the floor. So obviously at the base of the trees you can see that it doesn't just stop, it sort of melds into the snow a little. And then here we've got sort of like debris. If you just use the side of your brush here to pick up the canvas or the texture that you're working on. And you can also do this with the shrubbery in the foreground. Right, so wash your brush out now. Okay, so now we're going to add some greenery. We're going to add in these big brushes at the front, and we're going to add some bits of leaf and bits of greenery in the foreground. So because we're going to be covering these large areas, I'm going to be using my big brush again. We want our dark green again, so to make that we need a lot of blue and a little bit of yellow. And I'm going to make quite a lot because we're going to be using this colour a lot. And also we'll need some of the purple, so we can also make some more of that if we've used it all up. Lovely, so once you've got all your colours topped up, we want to make a really dark green, so we're going to take the bluey green colour and some purple. And starting from this side, I'm going to just paste that in just like the reference photo. So it's not black, it's almost black, but instead of using black, this is a really nice way to stop the painting from looking too dark, because black can easily overpower a painting. So if you want a really dark colour and you don't really want to use black because you know that there's better ways, then this is a great way to add in that really dark colour, but also it's still full of pigment, so it's going to reflect the light really, really nicely. I'm also going to pop that a little bit in the top of this tree as well, because we've got some greenery there. And then I'm going to do the same thing over this side. So again, we want the dark green and purple. And especially this very right side, it's extremely dark. And it sort of continues all the way down to the bottom. That's lovely. I'm just going to then adding a bit more green to the mixture, so it's more green than it is red, and it's starting to get a bit more full of colour. Also, I'm just going to dab this brush over this area just to create some little leaves. And I'm going to start to bring this over the tree now. So once again, I've run out of my green, so I'm going to make some more of that. Okay, and once I've got my green, I'm going to now add a little bit of white to that green. And I'm going to start dotting this over what we've just done. So this is only going to be used in the lighter areas. We can start to put this over this tree here. And this is a fairly neutral colour because it's not the yellow green, it's the blue green. So we can start to add in some light areas without the vibrancy of the yellow. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this green here, the mid green. Once again, I need some more blue. So here we want the blue and the yellow. So now we can take some of this paint and just start adding it into some of the lighter areas. And this is going to just really inject it with some more vibrancy, because yellow is a very vibrant colour. As you see, I'm just dapping my paintbrush very lightly. And if you feel like that's too green, you can also mix it with this bluey green to make a colour in between these two greens. And that will then balance out the yellow again. It's really up to you and how vibrant you want it, or if you like this look of bleakness. I think a good mixture of the two is good, because when you use a more vibrant colour amongst more dull tones, it really makes those colours pop. So I'm going to use a mixture of both. And what I'm doing here is that even though I'm using my big brush for detail, because of all the bristles, it's really great to use a big brush for leaves. So I'm just using the very end of my bristles and dabbing them on. It's more like mark making than painting. But it just creates this really lovely effect without having to go and individually paint each leaf. And I'm just going to carry this into this bush here on the left hand side. So if you've got lots of green left, you can just keep on doing this. I'm just going to keep on going until I've used all my greens up. And so now I'm going to wash out my brush. I feel like now I want to add a little bit more detail to my trees, so you don't have to do this, of course. So I'm going to add a lot of white and a tiny bit of orange. And just only in tiny amounts, I'm going to add in some tiny bits of detail just to make those trees really stand out nice. I'm also going to add a bit more white in areas in the foreground, sorry. So just to really build up that contrast, I'm just going to add in some little areas with the thick paint. And again, for the foreground, you can add as much detail as you like. I'm just going to add a few bits in the foreground here so that the snow in the background is showing through. At this point, all of our paintings will look a little bit different. So if you want to keep on going to add some more detail in, or whatever you like, you feel free to carry on going until you feel really, really happy with it. I think that mine's finished, so I'm going to wash up my brushes And if you want to keep the paint on your palette, you can pop over a thin sheet of plastic, cling film, anything like that. And as long as you make sure it's covering the paint, then it will be ready to use for next time you want to paint. Thank you so much guys for creating this painting with me. I thoroughly enjoyed painting it. So if you really like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and it would be really nice to welcome you into the subscriber family. Thanks so much for watching guys, bye! Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you've got any painting tutorial if you've not already seen the if you had a